From the moment that I found out I was pregnant, I always had this sense that God was kind of speaking to my spirit, and I constantly had this voice telling me that I wasn't going to meet this one. And so I kind of just chalked it up to just nerves. I had had 3 healthy, fine pregnancies prior to that, and so there just was no reason that I wouldn't go on to have a 4th healthy baby. Right about 8 weeks, I noticed some bleeding and went to the emergency room. They did an ultrasound in the emergency room, and baby was fine and was kicking and moving around and was great. So we felt really hopeful that things were going to be okay and this was just kind of a fluke. But within an hour, I completely miscarried. It was extremely difficult, and I remember at one point, right before they were going to do a second ultrasound, just to make sure I had passed everything, like I was sitting in this little bathroom on the toilet and just hysterical. I was hysterical, and my husband sat on the floor just holding me up. It was the greatest pain that I thought one could ever feel. Like that was the pinnacle of it. Like it couldn't get worse than that. After that, we really felt like that baby kind of carved out a spot in our family and carved out that fourth place. We decided to try again the next month, and we got pregnant again. And that pregnancy went really well, had a few minor complications, but nothing went wrong. And so he came and was great. And so we were done. All our spots were filled. The team was full. But then not long after that baby, found out we were pregnant again. This one was quite surprising as well, but we embraced it with open arms, and we were really excited, and everything went smoothly. And we got to the 3rd trimester. Because I had had so many pregnancies in a short period of time, my uterus was not happy, and I was having lots of contractions from about 20 weeks on. And so I always kind of had the sense like baby was going to come early just because of that. I was always kind of aware. One really beautiful day in May, a Saturday, and got up and we were playing outside with the kids and just having a really great day. It was just one of those perfect days. The weather was perfect and the kids were well behaved, and I should have known like the shoe was going to drop because it was too perfect. It was early evening, and so I sat down and was like, I really just haven't rested today. So I laid down on the bed and had some dinner, and that the baby just wasn't moving quite as much as he used to. And at that point I was about 32 weeks, and he was a super active baby. So it was really rare that he would not be moving. It was really uncommon. And I remember at one point, like he was big enough to where I could feel physically like where his body parts were. And I felt where his butt kind of was, and so I gave him a big old shove, hoping that would wake him up or he would kick me back. I shoved him, and I felt his little bottom just like float to the other side of my stomach. Then I started to panic, and I called my husband from the other room and I said, something's not right. We need to go to the hospital. And I grabbed my keys and I left. I told him he needed to find a babysitter and that I would meet him at the hospital. I got in the car and I was just praying, and I kept poking at my belly and was trying everything I could. I drank a ton of water and did all the tricks that I knew how to do, and he still wasn't moving. We got into the room and they started putting the monitors on. Pretty quickly I knew that he was gone. He was big enough at that point, there was no reason that the monitor couldn't find his heartbeat. I started getting really angry with the nurse because she just couldn't find it, and I thought, okay, is this girl new? Like, is there something wrong with the machine? The minutes went by and it was just silence. The doctor's waving the wand over my belly, and the first thing that pops up is the baby's face, and for some reason that was calming for me, and I thought, oh, okay, he's got a face, he's just fine. And then he kind of moved the ultrasound over to his chest, and there was no movement at all, and he just said, I'm so sorry, there's no heartbeat. Instantly I thought, I have to get this baby out of me as quickly as possible. I had an idea of what I needed to do at that point. I knew that I had to have this baby, and I started asking. I was like, well, I just want a C-section, and they told me, well, we really don't think that's a good idea. So they asked me, like, well, do you want to go home? Do you want to stay here? And I said, there's no way I'm going home at this point. Like, I have a dead baby inside of me. I'm not leaving this hospital with that knowledge. I decided to go ahead and be induced and give birth. They induced me that evening. There was this odd sense. I mean, when you're in a moment like that, the last thing that you would think that you could experience would be joy, but there was an abundance of it. The only thing that I can chalk it up to is when God tells us that we'll experience peace in situations that are not so peaceful, peace beyond our understanding, and that was absolutely what it was. There was laughter in the room, and we were joking around and telling stories, and we went between laughing and crying, but it was peaceful and it was beautiful. So I labored through the night, and Macklin was born 11:41 on May 10th, on Mother's Day. He came out, and we had no idea why he had died, and so that was the biggest question, was what had happened. And as soon as he came out, I remember pushing and seeing my midwife down at my feet, and she's just crying, and we're both crying as I'm pushing, and there was this sense of like, I don't want this to end, but I need this to be over. So he came out, and she started unwrapping the cord 1, 2, 3 times. That was our sign and our reasoning. And there was a knot in the cord too that was significantly taut. It was tight. So that was our answer. And his cord was very, very long, and because he moved around so much, he had actually elongated his cord and gotten wrapped up in it. There was nothing we could have done. There was no test, there was no ultrasound, there was nothing that we could have done to predict it. We couldn't have saved him. We don't for sure know when he actually died, but I have a pretty good feeling the night before I was just drifting off to sleep, and he gave a very large full body movement where it shook my bed. After doing some research, I found out that that's actually quite common for babies to make a pretty large movement before they die. That was hard for me because I wish I would have known. There's nothing we could have done, but he just drifted off. We both fell asleep together, and I was the only one that woke up. Making good out of the death of a child seems impossible, but my God makes beauty from ashes, and that's what he's done with our family, is he made beauty from ashes. We can only hope for our children. As Christian parents, we just want them to live a life that's going to glorify God. Macklin did that without even taking a breath, and his life's given me and our family the opportunity to minister to others and to show the hope of God, because if it wasn't for our faith and our hope that we had, we never would have made through them. His little life has created so much hope for so many other people. Knowing what I know and what has come of his life, if I were to have to do it again, I would. And I don't want to say that because I miss him, and I wish he were here, and I look at us when we sit down for dinner, and I know that we've got 2 missing kids there. That's difficult. I know that God turned our ashes into something so beautiful and has really given us a purpose through it. So I find hope in the eternal love of Jesus.
One less ticket before it's gone. One less summer before it's fall. Tune your strings and play